Come on, Carl. A man and a woman being just friends? Surely you can't be serious. The very foundation of our instincts defies it. Repressed desires lie beneath, waiting to surface. Don't tell me you actually believe otherwise.
Ah, Sigmund, there you go again with that predictable reductionist stance. Is every connection between people simply a manifestation of lust? Sometimes two people are bound by something deeper, a spiritual bond that transcends physical desires. I'm sorry if you can't comprehend that, old friend.
Deeper bond? Oh, I see. That's what you call it. Sounds to me like your so-called spiritual bond is just a polite phrase for unspoken attraction. And sooner or later, that tension, whether spiritual or not, ends up in bed. It's only natural.
Only natural. Spoken like a true prisoner of your own libido, Sigmund. Not everyone is so fixated on sex. A man and a woman can indeed enjoy a profound connection, one that doesn't require giving in to baser instincts. Just because you're haunted by your own theories doesn't mean everyone else has to be.
Profound connection, he says. Carl, you might believe in these fantasy archetypes and so-called collective unconscious nonsense, but let's face it, this is the real world. Strip away your metaphors, and what do you have? A mess of repressed feelings, buried desires, and eventually they erupt. Believe me, I've seen it happen.
And here you are, assuming that every close friendship must be a facade for suppressed lust. You're blind to the possibility that a man and a woman can actually respect one another without complicating things with, what shall we call it? Libido. But I suppose in your worldview, respect is just another layer of denial,
Denial is precisely what your theories are built on, my dear Carl. All this talk of respect and connection sounds like a desperate attempt to cover up what you can't admit. Honestly, I wonder how many of your profound connections have ended up in a dark corner of your mind, safely repressed. How many women did you connect with in this so-called spiritual way?
Sigmund, you can't even conceive of a platonic friendship without dragging it into the gutter. It's almost sad, really. You act as though all men share your, shall we say, primal compulsions. Just because you're preoccupied with your pleasure principle doesn't mean everyone else is.
Oh, forgive me, enlightened one. What would I know, having spent my life uncovering the raw impulses that make us human? Just because you've dressed up your lust as spirituality doesn't mean it's not there. Or do you believe that friendship is somehow immune to our basic drives?
I do believe some people are capable of forming friendships that aren't tainted by sexual desire, yes. I've seen it firsthand. Not every mind is as chaotic and lust-driven as your own, Sigmund. Some of us are capable of reaching beyond the carnal and embracing something sacred.
Sacred? Carl, please. You and your archetypes, your mystical nonsense, it's all just elaborate escapism. Human beings are driven by desires. No amount of spiritual mumbo-jumbo will change that. You might call it sacred, but it's simply desire wrapped in delusion. And eventually, that delusion cracks. Just admit it. Friendship between a man and a woman is nothing but delayed gratification.
Funny how you insist on framing everything in terms of satisfaction and gratification. Isn't that what you call projection, Sigmund? Maybe it's you who's trying to bury your own disappointments in this desperate crusade against intimacy. I don't see relationships as mere power plays of repressed libido. You're so fixated on sexuality that you can't imagine a genuine bond that isn't trying to end up in bed.
Genuine bond. Don't make me laugh. You're living in a dream world. You talk of these lofty ideals, but at the end of the day, every one of us is driven by the unconscious and its desires. Or are you so naive that you think you can rewrite human nature with a few metaphors?
Not naive, no. I just have faith in the human capacity for more than mere instincts. Maybe if you spend a little less time analyzing people's sexuality and a little more time understanding their souls, you'd see the world differently.
Their souls? Listen to yourself, Carl. Do you really think you can escape biology with some fanciful talk of the soul? I don't care how many myths and archetypes you throw into it. There's no escaping the raw, primal drive behind it all.
And that's precisely why you're stuck, Sigmund. You're so obsessed with what lies beneath that you've lost sight of anything higher. It's as though you're blind to beauty, unable to comprehend that not everything is reducible to your theories. Tell me, how many friends have you lost because of your projections?
Not as many as you've likely lost in your spiritual quest, Carl. I can't help but wonder how many sacred bonds you've formed that eventually drifted into something more. Or maybe you're just better at pretending. After all, who could resist the infamous Carl Jung?
At least I can look someone in the eye without dissecting their psyche for hidden urges. That's more than I can say for you. You're too tangled up in your theories to experience the world. Real relationships are more than your endless obsession with desire.
And you're so tangled up in your delusions that you can't face reality. Tell yourself whatever you want, Carl. But deep down, even you must know that these friendships you're so fond of are ticking time bombs.
Maybe in your world, Sigmund. But for some of us, not every relationship is a repressed fantasy waiting to explode. Some of us believe in the power of true connection, and that, I'm afraid, is something you'll never understand.
True connection. If only it existed outside your mind, Carl. But I'll humour you. Just remember, when your latest spiritual friend turns out to be a little more than just a friend, I'll be here, ready to remind you of what's real.
And when your endless cynicism fails you yet again, I'll be here, Sigmund, ready to remind you that life is more than the baseless anxieties of a frustrated old man.